Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Courageous Curiosity Podcast. We're excited to have you with us as always, and thank you for bearing with us as we had our little summer hiatus. We're back, kicking back into our second season of the show. This is our 10th episode of season 2, and it's going to be a fun one. So we're here with some of our students. We're here with one of our incredible staff members and teachers, and we're going to talk a little bit about cell phones. And I know that's been a hot topic for a lot of people. And we're going to kind of unpack, why we're talking about it and all of those different things. But one of the things that happened about 7-8 months ago is we started talking in the district about some research that came out. And there was a book that was written called The Anxious Generation. And essentially, one of the topics that came up was how students, their brains have actually become rewired in an entire generation of students based on screens and lots of other things, lack of, free play as young children and all of those things. So, without getting into all of that, one of the things that emerged was, okay, what can we do as a school system to help students with the amount of time that they are spending on screens? And then also, I think for teachers, it was a constant battle of, you're not supposed to have your phone out right now. Oh, I was texting my mom, or, oh, I was doing this, right? And those types of things happen. And so we were spending this inordinate amount of time in the classroom kind of dealing with the cell phone thing. So we decided we would try to pilot something, and we're really curious today. We're only, a couple weeks in school, but we have a couple of our students who are experiencing it firsthand. We have one of our teachers that are doing, this great work with this in the classroom right now. So we want to talk about what are we seeing? Like, what are some of the early reactions and responses to that? So we have 3 great people on the show today. We'll start with one of our incredible high school teachers, Miss Katie James. Katie, you're student council advisor. You have all sorts of other things. Tell us a little bit about what you do in the district and just kind of your background.
Well, I teach science at the high school. This year it's AP Biology, IB Biology, which is a class students can take after AP Biology, and medical careers, where students take one semester, they get to travel to the hospital, to Ascension, and interact with all the different careers in healthcare. And I work with student council.
Yeah.
And this is my, I think, 7th year in the district.
Wow.
And 14th year teaching.
That's awesome. You have like a ton of hats at this building.
Yeah.
It's you everywhere, doing everything. And another big part of, I think, the med careers, while it's not exactly tied into that, a lot of the students that you mentor and work with are also in the HOSA program, which is a huge program here at the high school. So you're seeing multiple layers, whether it's student council, HOSA, kids in class. So you see them interacting in all sorts of different mediums, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
cool.
I also work with the theater program.
Yeah. So, another one. So it's great. So thank you for being here. We're excited to hear what you have to say. And then we have 2 of our students, and you happen to be sisters, which is perfect, because we have something happening at the high school and the middle school and Meadows, which are all a little bit different, but you 2 are middle school, high school students. So let's start, Jenna, with you. Jenna Atoui, go ahead and share a little bit about yourself and, your experience.
Okay, so I'm Jenna. I play volleyball, and I'm a freshman here at the high school.
Awesome. How long have you played volleyball?
I've been playing for 3 years.
Okay, great. And have you played at the school team at the middle school, and then now you're at the high school hoping to...
Yeah, so in 7th grade, I played on the team. In 8th grade, I played for the school team.
Okay.
I also played club outside of school, and then this year I'm on the freshman team.
That's awesome. I don't, but my kids have played club volleyball. What club do you play for?
Legacy.
Oh, that's a good one right here in Novi. Mm-hmm. That's great. All right, and Lily.
I'm Lily. I do karate. I've been doing it for about 3 years.
Awesome.
And I go to a lot of competitions.
Okay.
So
That's awesome. And what grade are you in, and what's your favorite class so far?
my favorite class is probably science.
Okay.
And
Are you
I'm
saying
in
that
7th
because Miss
grade.
James is here?
No, I just like it because of the experiments.
Okay, awesome. And so in your 7th grader at Novi Middle School, you guys have a little bit of a different system this year than the high school does, right? So one of the things that I want to start to maybe kind of kick this off from your perspective, I think telling anyone watching this show from just raw out, Lily, tell the people watching the show what is different about your school this year as it relates to cell phones and the experience that you have to go through. So what are we doing?
So this year everybody's more engaged into everything. Like if we're having like a class discussion, everybody's like raising their hand and wanting to talk. But if we had the phones with us like and using them, nobody would really be like engaging as much as they are right now.
Wow. So that's okay. So good feedback on engagement, right? And how people are talking with each other and doing that. Can you describe the experience that you have as a student? Like talk about the pouches a little bit. Like what is it like? What are we doing that's different? Because obviously when you were coming from 6th grade, you didn't have these things. So talk a little bit about what's different this year with relation to the pouches and all of those things.
So everybody's like saying, oh, I don't like the pouches and stuff. But I'm okay with it. It's just it was a little bit like shocking. Like, oh, I don't want to do this, and, like in the beginning. But now I get why we did it. So
how does the pouch work at the middle school?
Yeah,
like,
talk about like how does it? Because there's people that are watching that don't even know what a pouch is. So explain like from the beginning. You went to registration and you got this pouch. Like so, Mrs. James is saying, what's it? Talk about the mechanics, like how it works.
So there's a magnet. And you put it on the magnet, you push a button and it opens. Then you stick your phone in it and then you lock it up until 3:11.
Oh.
And then when you're going back out to the buses or if you're a car rider, you put it back on the magnet, you push the button again, it opens and you take your phone out.
Okay. So from a functional perspective, your phone is in an actual pouch all day long.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's different than what you're doing at the high school, right?
Yeah.
So for you, Katie or Jenna, talk a little bit about, what it's like at the high school and how that's a little bit different than what it was in years past.
So at the high school, at first, like when I first walked in, I was shocked. I didn't understand it at first. And then I was like, okay, so you put it in during class and then you take it out. And then I felt like it was definitely like a bigger change than it was at the middle school because like we just had our phones on us the whole time or we had them in our bags. But I felt like people were definitely, like Lily said, they were like more engaged and more people are like willing to participate. And before that, like there was like less socializing in class, and I feel like there's definitely been a lot more socializing and people are like making new friends, talking to each other more. So I think that was like great to see that. Yeah.
That's awesome. So the mechanism at the high school is different than the pouches at the middle school in Meadows. So can you talk a little bit about what you're doing in your class and maybe what that's like from a teacher's perspective?
Yeah, I was excited going into this year after reading some of the book this summer and then seeing in the past 14 years how cell phones went from being mostly text messaging to then this computer in your pocket that impacts everything that we do. So I was playing with the idea of getting a cell phone caddy, which is basically like a calculator caddy. So there's all these pockets on the door, and students slide their phones into that and leave it there. There's been some teachers that have been doing it for a few years and loving the success of it.
Sure.
And then when we came back for August professional development, we found out that Mrs. Carter and her team had purchased these caddies for every classroom. So that gives it a nice, easy way for teachers who want to use the caddy to have students walk in and they have their number and they put their cell phone in their pouch, and then class starts old school like it was, 20 years ago.
Sure.
And then at the end of class, they can pick it up and they can use their cell phones during passing time and lunch at the high school. And then some we have a little bit more freedom at the high school without the individual student pouches. Some teachers will just have students put them away. Like, let's say you have a really large class and the caddy doesn't make as much sense in the classroom, just no phones at all. And I'm already feeling a very big difference from the last few years versus how this year is starting.
Wow. And it's been just a couple weeks,
Yeah.
right? So that's amazing. You talked about this kind of evolution. It used to be just texting, and now it's different. So for both of you who are living in the world of technology, you've grown up with it, you have these devices, Talk a little bit about the experience as a young person. I mean, it's certainly not just texting anymore, right? There's Snap and Instagram, and everybody has these accounts and social media. Talk about that, what that's like as a young person. Is that ever present? Is it, constantly there, and you're thinking about that a lot? I mean, I understand that dynamic and component, but, maybe share that for somebody watching the show.
Yeah, so like I think social media and like technology has like impacted us so much now, because like all everybody thinks is like, oh, now I have to go answer my Snap streaks or something, or like, oh, I have to fit up to like these standards and I have to like build myself up to those or something. And I feel like it just brings your like mentality down, like that, like if I'm not this, then like I'm not good enough or something. And I think it's like really discouraging to some people. So I think that's like a big impact,
Yeah, so there's a lot of comparison, right, that happens. But there's also like this incessant need to be checking it, right? I mean, I've heard, is it you don't ever want to leave someone unopened? Is that really a thing?
Yeah.
Right? So if you leave someone unopened, that means you're not responding to what they're doing. And so has that been weird now that you're not constantly on the device?
Yeah, I mean, like Jenna said, technology is like taking over our lives and stuff. So I'm kind of attached to my phone.
Sure.
So I think the pouches were a good idea, like most definitely.
Okay. So you talked about seeing some difference in the engagement in your class, even over the last few years. How does that look different? Like, describe that experience, because I know sometimes when I would go into a classroom, and it's hard being somebody from the outside looking in, but it seemed like a lot of times, there could be a class going on and there's not much discussion, there's not much talking, everybody's quiet, but they're kind of on their devices.
Yeah.
So, what is different about, other than just that notable thing?
I have a unique situation with my IB bio class where I get students who had me for AP and now they have me for IB.
Okay.
So they had me last year where I was much more relaxed about phones, and now I have them again this year, and I'm seeing personalities already in week 2 that I didn't see for most of last year.
Wow.
And I think one of the best parts about having the phones away is that we're doing it as a whole school. So when a student is in class, their friends are not on their phones. So everyone is disconnected, which allows the constant like worry about what's happening in the world of social media to unplug a little bit. It's an adjustment. We're in our honeymoon phase right now. It's going well. But we're also trying to limit computer use, at least in my room, so being more intentional about when those come out too. And basically I've been designing activities where students are forced to talk to each other so that they build those relationships nice and early. And then as the year goes on, they'll have those foundations so they can study together and know their classmates on a level beyond like, hey, what'd you get for number 7?
Yeah, exactly. And the relationship is the cornerstone of a healthy classroom community. We know that, but it's also important in life, right? I mean, adults work together through relationships. So do, the workplace. You have to be able to interact and do these things. So I think it's amazing that we're allowing kids the freedom to be able to explore those relationships as well. Mrs. James talked a little bit about this idea of, I think FOMO, right? I'm not worried as much. Have you experienced that? Are you seeing that as well? It's like, I don't love, like, I know you talked, Lily, about, well, not everybody loves the pouches, but is it a little bit better because you're not worried about, well, these kids have their phones and I'm the only one that doesn't, right? Is that a piece that helps the situation a little bit?
Yeah, many people don't like the pouches like at all.
Sure.
They're like, oh, I don't want to put my phone in it. I don't want to put my phone in it. But yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah.
But are you feeling that maybe students have told you, or you've even experienced personally, because of the fact that everybody's doing that, you don't have to worry as much about missing out on what somebody might be posting or snapping or whatever, because everybody's kind of, at least in your school, doing the similar thing?
Yeah. Everybody has their phone put away. So like if my friend from another school like texts me like obviously I'm not going to be able to respond, and that's like the same for everybody. So
Have you had to tell your friends like, hey, I'm not being rude, I just don't have my phone during school?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what about you? I mean, at the high school, I know you have more freedom, right? You have more access to your phone. Is it kind of like as soon as passing time goes, those things get whipped out and everybody's kind of going through, or has it been not as drastic?
I think definitely like people get on their phones during passing time and lunch, but I think it's like been like it's not as fast. Like they'll like sit and socialize for a little bit and then they'll pull out their phones. At least that's what I do and what I've seen some people do, because it's not like that immediate feeling where you're like, oh, I need to have my phone right now. I think like we're adjusting to like not having it, and it's just like we're getting better at like dealing with it, and then only pulling it out when it's like appropriate to pull it out. Like we won't pull it out mid conversation anymore. You know, yeah.
So some people, I know one of the concerns that, people have had, particularly at Meadows and at the middle school, were, okay, if these phones are in pouches, what about a school emergency, right? What about something that happens and, I need to get a hold of somebody? I'm interested both, in your both perspective, but also from a teacher's lens, situation where maybe it's, maybe there's a shelter in place because there's something that is a little, suspicious, right, on campus. And now we don't have, at the high school, it's a little different because you have them in the pouches and they can get them. But, at the middle school, they're locked up. So, do you feel like you're unsafe or unable to respond in those situations? And is that something, that is a worthy, notable thing? I think it's a reasonable thing to be concerned about, but, is that a concern for you, and how are you experiencing that?
So I think like, okay, because in the high school we have them available to us in the classroom. I think that just like knowing that we have access to them if anything bad were to happen, I think that's like, it's like more comforting, and like I feel like it's not like unsafe, but like I feel like it's a good idea to have them in the classroom, especially if there is an emergency like that, or like in that case. That way like people can like notify their parents and stuff like quickly.
It's funny you ask this question because the first week of school we had a fire drill. It was scheduled, but I didn't have that setting turned on in my Google Calendar, so it went off. And the students weren't aware, and I wasn't aware, and we all looked at each other for a minute like, do we grab phones?
Do we grab them or not?
And everybody was okay leaving them because it seemed like it was just a drill. So we went outside, but like you were saying, it is nice that they are available in case of a severe emergency, but put away for the majority.
Yeah, and it's not super popular, but in the event of any emergency, right? The first thing we want our students to do is to follow the processes that their teachers are giving them to follow. And the first thing we want them to not do is to reach for the phone and start texting and calling, right? Like those are things that I think provide maybe a false sense of security for people, that if I have this thing and I can text somebody right away, I can let them know. But in the moment of an event, of a serious, right, emergency, what we do want to do is make sure everybody's safe first, then have the ability to do that. And so I know at the middle school in Meadows, we have a lot of unlocking devices. We can come around quickly and make sure people, you're not in your room for multiple hours with your phone locked up. We can get them so that you can communicate with family, and that's been something, that we've talked about as well. So I guess, we talked a little bit about this, and I appreciate some of you sharing your perspective about, why you think this is helpful. One of the things I get a little bit concerned about is that technology is awesome, and we're super pro technology, right? And I don't want the message to be we're trying to do something just to be, put a lot of rules in and just be punitive. That's really not what our intention is here. Our intention is to give students the freedom to develop socially and all of those kind of interactive skills that are super important. So I'm going to ask just kind of a general question, and each of you can take it in your own way. Is this a worthwhile endeavor for those reasons? And should we continue to explore these things? Or, and it can be also, I think both things can be true. I don't like not having access to my device or having it in the pouch, but I also recognize, like, I don't like going out and exercising and eating healthy, but I also know that those are good things for me, right? Like, I would much rather go to Dairy Queen every day, get the ice cream cake, but I also know that might not be the healthiest thing for me. So is this a similar situation? And from your perspective, is that kind of what we're dealing with here?
I think it's like similar, because like kids are like you said, like they're getting more social and they're learning more, and I think it's like very effective, and I think we should continue to explore it. I think we could have, if like there's days where it's like, okay, let's say a half day and we don't have as much work to do, I think there could be times where it would be appropriate to pull out the phone, only if like the teacher approves of it. But other than that, I think it's really like a good thing for us.
Okay. Yeah. What about you, Lily?
Same thing that Jenna said. It's a good thing. Like, we should explore more into it, and like the half day, not much work. But also I think like if there was a fire drill or something, but like an emergency, I think each teacher should have a magnet in their classroom just in case. So
yeah, it's a great suggestion.
Yeah, the big question at the high school that we're thinking through is, what about advisory? Advisory is like homeroom. Students use that time to go to other classes, work with friends. Sometimes if you're busy and stressed and you forgot about X, Y, and Z assignment, you might want to meet up with a friend and talk through things. So we're still growing. I think it's a really great start to the year. But as those little questions come up, we'll have to explore what's the best case scenario for whatever the particular situation is.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely, this is all a pilot. We're trying it out. We're getting, early feedback like this, but we're also going to see how it goes over time. You both had an interesting story. So your sisters, you're used to being connected via social media and through your phones. So I understand you during school were trying to get a hold of her. Is that right?
Well, she had karate like testing that day, so I was like, okay, I'll just send her the screenshot because they had posted it on the Instagram, and I was in lunch, and I was like, okay, I'll just send it to her. Yeah. And then I didn't know her phone would be like on, like not on silence, and I guess it just rang in class.
Yeah. And so it's in your device and your pouch, and you couldn't get it out. So that's funny. Well, thank all of you for being able to participate in this, and thank you for your open-mindedness to these things. Want to always, in every show, give all of our guests an opportunity to say kind of a final word or anything else you have to say or that's on your mind related to this. We'll go just kind of around, and we'll start with you, Lily. Anything else you want to share?
Everybody was looking forward to having their phones out in middle school, but since the pouches came in, like everybody's hopes just crashed. So
yeah. And so there's kids that are thinking, man, I was hoping for this and now I don't have that. But hopefully it will be manageable and people will, come around to the idea and it'll be viewed positively, hopefully. Yeah.
I think like it's a really good idea, and I'm like ready to see it evolve and like how it can improve, and how like students are gonna like deal with it and like how their attitude will be towards it.
Great.
I have high hopes. I hope that this continues. We're so early. There will definitely be some hiccups. We'll, I'm sure, have to do some resets throughout the year. But that's normal. That's the way it goes. My hope is that this gives students the space to mentally unplug from everything that's happening on their device and just focus on the friends and the people around them and the class material that they're learning. That's what I'm seeing right now, and very hopeful that it continues.
That's amazing. Thank you to all three of you for being a part of this show. Katie James, amazing high school teacher for us. Lily and Jenna, it's awesome. It's cool that you're sisters and here on the show together. And thank you for your unique perspectives. and being open and honest about your experience. We love these shows. We love to kick this new part of the second season off, so second half of the second season. Stay tuned for episode 11, which will air in a couple weeks. These are going to be released every 2 weeks on Tuesdays. Everybody have a great week and stay curious.